Hey, what's up, y'all? This is Willpower Astrology, and I'm Will, and today we're talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius. So Pluto was discovered in 1930 when Pluto was in Cancer. Some people are saying that they don't think that Pluto really is a planet anymore because Pluto is downgraded to like an asteroid or whatever the shit. But here's the thing about me, is that when I learned astrology, I learned Pluto, and Pluto makes sense to me. And what I've been kind of able to observe about Pluto, and especially generational astrology and whatnot, has been copied many times. I've seen my blog post from 2017 copied word for word on astrologers' blog posts around the world, like in mass. You know what I mean? But I've never seen what I wrote about generational astrology on that Zennial post. I never saw that written down or spoken by anyone explicitly until I wrote that post. So, I did name the astrological generations, and until somebody can tell me otherwise, like, I'm gonna claim it. So anyways, this video is gonna be all over the place. So I'm just gonna tell you that right now. Please stick with me. The other day I tried to do Saturn and Pisces. I was like, I'm just gonna talk for 5 to 10 minutes, and then that bitch ended up being like half an hour. So I'm gonna try to talk really fast. I'm gonna try to talk very concisely, but I might be doing kind of this for a second. So just please stay with me. All right. So Pluto, astrologically, is associated, it says it's the co-ruler of modern Scorpio. And Pluto has to do with this sense of degeneration, or, things have to rot and then new life comes up, right? So Pluto kind of like slowly tears things down, and then we're replanting the seeds as we go along, right? So it's like subterranean, it's chthonic, it's like it's underworld shit. You know what I mean? It's dark impulses. But because Pluto spends such a long time in each sign, we call it a generational planet. Some people do, some people don't, whatever. I tend to see it very much in correlation with the generations. So anyways, let's just jump in. I think right off, I'm going to talk about Pluto and Aquarius itself, and then I'm going to talk about the astrological generations after that. So Pluto comes along, and we're tearing down structures and we're rebuilding things as we go. It kind of defines generations, and it defines these time periods, and like how did we shift, how did we grow, or evolve as a people. So coming out of the sign of Capricorn, Pluto's been in Capricorn. I have all this stuff written down, but of course, Pluto entered Capricorn in 2008. So Pluto has been in the sign of like public life and careers and ambition and kind of like go get them, and public organizing and that type of thing, and how you present yourself in public. And now we're going into the sign of Aquarius, which has to do with networks, connections, dreams, like brotherhood. You know what I mean? Aquarius is equality, liberty, fraternity. You know what I mean? It's brotherhood, it's humanity, it's people coming together, it's all this stuff. So Pluto entering Aquarius, going from how do we operate as a society when it comes to dealing with stuff like Capricorn things, like money, careers, corporations, do you know what I mean? Like organization in that type of way. And then Aquarius is all about people power. So now, how does all that stuff that we accumulated in Capricorn, how is that going to transfer to the people, right? So basically, Pluto is going to be in Aquarius. It entered Aquarius March 23rd of this year, and it's going to be there until June 11th. Then it's going to retrograde. Then it comes back January 20th of 24, and then it goes retrogrades again September 1st of 24, and then it comes back November 19th of 24, and then after November 19th of 24, it stays in Aquarius until March 8th of 2043. Okay, so then it'll retrograde again back into Aquarius August 31st of 43, and then it'll finally break away fully into Pisces January 19th of 2044. So we're dealing with this period ahead of us is a very long time. Like, I don't even know how to talk about all this stuff. I can sit here and see that my time is rolling, but I'm like, so how do you look at such a huge period of time and kind of bring all that cohesively together? I think that this next 20 years or so, we're going to reevaluate how it is that we see each other as people. We're going to reevaluate networks, groups, governments, systems of dealing with people en masse. I think that, oh God, like there's just so much. Okay, so going back to December of 2020, we had the Jupiter and Saturn, the Great Conjunction at 0 degrees of Aquarius. And so that sets off a 20-year cycle of its own, right? So we're in that Great Conjunction cycle right now where we've got all this Aquarius energy happening. And leading up to that, we had the uprising of 2020, the largest uprising in human history. That's very Aquarius energy for you. And that was building up to that point. So now we're in that mode for the next 20 years. Please stay with me. I'm going to try to get this out. So the Great Conjunction. Oh, see, there's just so much. It's too much. I'm all over the place, and I know, and I'm sorry, it's 6 minutes already. Okay, so I talked about this, I think, before, and I talked about it on my friend Austin's podcast, People Pleaser. They talk about, in this book I got at a secondhand bookstore that was published in like 1947, they talk about astrological cycles. So the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction cycle, okay? Just stay with me for a second. The first order recurrent cycle of Jupiter and Saturn, which is 59.577 years, all values are mean values based on mean motions, is probably the 60-year cycle of which the ancients spoke so much, the period of social lag, or the time between the introduction of a new invention or social innovation represented by Uranus, and its adoption and spread on the institutional level of organized society, Jupiter and Saturn. So basically what that's saying is, we have this impulse which comes to us through Uranus, and then through the Jupiter-Saturn conjunction cycles, that's when we can like lay those ideas into effect. So we weren't able to lay these Aquarius ideas into effect until December of 2020. And now that that's happening, things are moving, things are going. We're in this period of where we were in social lag, and now we're catching up to this Aquarius energy, right? The second order recurrent cycle of these two planets is the Great Mutation Cycle, which meant so much in the mundane astrology of the ancients. More recent is the discovery of a cycle of this length by a modern, non-astrological historical investigator, Dr. J.S. Lee, who with the aid of Lin Yutang and Dr. Hu Shi is one of China's great scholars, studied the incidence of civil conflict in China from 1100 BC to 1930 AD. His graph of the amount of civil conflict in 5-year intervals from 230 BC to 1930 AD reveals an 809-year cyclical interval from the Qin dynasty of 221 BC to the Sui dynasty of 589 BC, followed by a 779-year cyclical interval from this dynasty to the Ming dynasty of 1368. Averaging 809-year and 779-year gives a mean value of 794 years, which would end the third cycle around 2159 AD, okay? So we're in this moment now. We're going to get to the end of this larger cycle of Jupiter-Saturn conjunctions in 2159, okay? So we're towards the end of this larger pattern of 20-year chunks of cycles. Whew. In the first half of each cycle, other than for 2 short-lived peaks of violence, the country was completely peaceful and prosperous, with unity prevailing. In the second halves, there are 5 peaks of violence and no interval of sustained peace. The start of each of the 3 cycles was marked by great building and engineering activities. In the Qin, by the Great Wall and huge palaces. In the Sui, by the Grand Canal and huge palaces. In the Ming, by the rebuilding of the Great Wall and several systems of canals. Notable astrologically is the fact that the first Jupiter-Saturn conjunction is in a water sign, Scorpio, occurred 3 years before the Qin dynasty, 18 years before the Sui dynasty, and 3 years before the Ming dynasty. The change of element, in this case from air to water, was anciently termed the trigonalis, okay? And deemed to be of prime political and economic import. According to Ralph Crom, the conjunction of 1365 occurred on November 1st at 7 degrees of Scorpio. So we're in a cycle that started off in the Middle Ages, 1365. We're coming to the end of this age, all right? Dr. Lee has thus confirmed regarding the Jupiter-Saturn rhythm that when the conjunctions are in water and fire, all is well, and while in earth and air, all is not well. Thus, it can be inferred that in the first half, Jupiter predominates, and in the second half, Saturn. This indicates that the astrological study of broader influences which affect the rise and fall of civilization is best approached through the recurrent cycles of position of relation of the major planets. So basically, what they're saying is that the Great Conjunction has been happening all in the 20th century in like Capricorn, Virgo, Taurus. It's been Earth signs. And now the Great Conjunction happening in Aquarius has put us into this mode where now we can be people power at this time over this period of 2020 to 2040. Okay. So now we can like bring that to the Earth. Like we've had all these ideas, but now we can bring it to the Earth. So now the Great Conjunction happened at 0 degrees of Aquarius. Okay. So now Pluto, right? So Jupiter is expansion and Saturn is contraction. And now Pluto's coming along to bulldoze all that shit. You know what I mean? We're tearing all that down and we're building up new things. So like I said a moment ago, Pluto is going to go over that spot of 0 degrees Aquarius several times in the next little while. Let me find these dates again. So we've had this massive new introduction of energy where we can now feel this stuff and bring it to the physical worldly plane, right? So now, damn it, where's my page? Okay, so Pluto passes over 0 degrees of Aquarius starting March 23rd, okay? Then it's gonna go back. It'll hit it again on around June 11th. Then it's gonna hit it again next year, January 20th. Then it's gonna hit it again September 1st. Then it's gonna hit it again on its way out on November 19th. So Pluto spends about half the year retrograde, and right now it's just going like this, over the Great Conjunction. So to me, if you look at those dates, March 23rd, June 11th, January 20th of next year, September 1st of next year, and November 19th of next year, we're looking at major energy being pumped into this Great Conjunction moment. It's not just that Pluto's entering Aquarius, it's that it's activating this Great Conjunction energy, okay? Woo! I'm talking so fast and I'm trying to get this out. Let's do it. So to me, we've already started to see major energies and shifts happen since March 23rd. Let's talk about Elon Musk's Twitter. His in the last couple of days, even since Mercury retrograde in Taurus started, he gave his alt Twitter out. He's like blew up a spaceship. He's like done all this crazy shit. On Twitter, they're calling it like the Armageddon of annoying people, where Trump might get indicted in Georgia. What is all this crazy shit happening where people are like, you know what I'm talking about. Whatever. I gotta move on. But there's all this shit happening that has to do with people power. Okay. What does that mean? That means that to me, I need to stop for a second. Okay, so what does that mean? So Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, right? So Capricorn is very organized and ambitious and delegatory. Or Capricorn says, I'm in charge and you do this, this, and that. So in the time since 2008, can we think of anything that's happened that has led us to like major uprisings? I'm thinking of, we've organized all political capital funneled up to the 1%. We've got the wealth inequality is like we haven't seen since the French Revolution, which if you're following the pop astrology girlies, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was like 1777 to like 1790s. So we're looking at the same type of wealth inequality that was present during the French Revolution that caused the American Revolution. Like America didn't just become America in 1776. They spent many years under the Articles of Confederation. This took a long time to kind of like build up the America that we know of today. So in that early American phase and period, they were still figuring out a lot of shit, and they were still, you know, doing horrible things like building the economy of the U.S. on the backs of slavery and black people, doing the largest genocide in history by getting rid of the natives and sending them to reservations and all that. Like, America was built and founded on genocide. So we're looking at the same type of energy where it's people power. We mythologize no taxation without representation. But look at all the crazy shit they did to those people. And now we're at a time where information is more readily available. We have more of a discourse about historical lenses, right? So we're looking at a time where it's going to be people power again. You can't stop it. And what people? Are we going to bring all people in with that? And so, like, in Pluto and Capricorn, we had this amassing of wealth to the top 1%. We had, you know what I mean? We're getting rid of the Voting Rights Act. We're getting rid of, like, people, because it's streamlining power, because Capricorn consolidates power and holds on to power. People that hold on to a lot of Capricorn energy, people that operate with a lot of Capricorn energy, concerned about their reputation, concerned about, like, the way that they appear in public. So we did a lot of this stuff under this illusion that we're doing this stuff for the public, but now we're knowing that, like, we're screwing the poor over, we're screwing over disabled people, like, you know what I mean? So now, to me, the overall emphasis of this quality of time, I've heard a lot of people say that we're in the age of Aquarius now, because it was the great conjunction in Aquarius in December of 2020, and now Pluto's in Aquarius. So there's a lot of talk about Aquarius, so people are like, oh, we're in the age of Aquarius now. I don't think we are. I think that this quality of Aquarius energy has never been present in anybody's life that has lived on the planet, that is still alive on this planet, right? So now we're going to get into this, like, huge phase where we are reorganizing and redefining how we look at groups of people. Are we going to break down national border lines? Are we going to, you know what I mean? Are we going to start seeing the other as people just like us? You know what I mean? It's these kind of qualities and figures. So I feel like a little manic today. So you guys are, like, on this little journey with me. So I've always kind of thought of the approach to the age of Aquarius, which I think, like they were talking about, is after this trigonalis happens and we're in 2159. I think after that is the age of Aquarius, when we're back into the great conjunction cycles, being in Scorpio, starting in Scorpio and getting back into the fire and water signs. That's when we're going to get back to peace. But until then, it's just going to be ramping up of bullshit and crazy shit happening. So the approach to the age of Aquarius, I've always felt like we're going to go one of two ways. And I kind of see it playing out now, right? One is that we're hippies in the musical Hair, and we're doing Twyla Tharp choreography in Central Park in New York. And we're just like, I'm free, I'm living, we're all people. And the other way that I see it going is that we become the Borg. Resistance is futile. We do become one, but we become like a fascist authoritarian kind of, like, non-dissenting body. You know what I mean? So I think that we're kind of on that precipice. I think this Aquarius energy from the great conjunction of 2020 that leads us through 2040, and then Pluto moving into Aquarius now, like, reactivating that and bringing those changes to the forefront through 2044. You know what I mean? We are going to see revolts, revolution. We're going to see a lot of, like, fascist tendencies. You know what I mean? And this is kind of like where I'm getting into this next. This is where I've been really hesitant to talk about this. I haven't been posting astrology a lot, especially over the last year or so, because ever since I became aware of astrology, this time period of 2020 to 2024 has always seemed really, like, high stakes and high drama to me. And I don't want to get on here and be a doomsayer. And I don't want to get on here and be like, tinfoil hat, oh my God. But let's talk about it. So Aquarius is a very visionary, futuristic sign. It's traditionally, in the ancient times, it's like the sunny side of Saturn, or in modern astrology, it's ruled by Uranus, which has to do with, breaking out of the mold and kind of being a rebel and kind of seeing into the future, right? So there is a great potential for this period of time, this from 2020 to 2020, from now, 2023 until 2044, to be a great blossoming of technology and philosophy and, you know, people coming together and all of this type of shit. And so I'm putting that out there. That's what I would love to see. I'd love to see us breaking up these monopolies. I'd love to see, you know what I mean, us listening to disabled people and like creating more accessible spaces for everyone and all that type of shit. You know what I mean? But what I've observed over the last couple of years is the normalization of mass death, especially in America by COVID. And so I kind of am seeing that perpetuating out through this quality of time. I don't think that revolution is going to be easy. I don't think that like changing the world is going to be this like, let's just hold hands and sing about love. I don't think it's going to be like that. We already know that we're on a doomsday with this climate change, with this global warming, that if we don't lower the Earth's temperature by 2 degrees Celsius by 2030, that we're going to be facing these like major extinctions. The ocean is not going to be able to sustain life. We're going to, you know what I mean? We're going to run out of water. We're going to run out of resources. We already know these things, and we already could be doing things to make it better, but we aren't. We're normalizing mass death. We're saying, oh, we got to get back to work, everybody. Oh, well, there's nothing I can do. I just have to do my job, and I just have to blah, blah, blah. Like, I would love for us to come together as a human people, but I just am not seeing it. I'm not seeing it. I think that due to climate change and geopolitical conflict, I mean, we already know that we're in a worldwide conflict right now. This situation with the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Ukraine is the breadbasket of Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia. You know what I mean? Like, there's millions and millions and millions of people that over the next year or two are going to be dying of starvation because they're not going to get food. So we already know that. We already know that there's bullshit happening, but we aren't doing anything to stop it. You know what I mean? We're going, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And that's just kind of my vibe. Like, that's just what I'm seeing for the next little while. And I don't want to get on here and just be like, we're all fucked. But I don't think that, like, Saturn in Aquarius, 2020 to 2023, right, was the failure of the collective to act. And now we're in Saturn in Pisces, is the failure of the collective to be able to tap into the collective consciousness or be able to see empathetic points of view. And we're already seeing that. I just saw a woman in the Montana State Legislature, on the Montana House of Representatives floor, say that she would rather have her daughter kill herself than be trans. She said, I would not do that for my daughter. That's where we're at. We're at like a Christo-fascist takeover of the entire American legal and judicial system or whatever. And we're just sitting here going, let's dunk on them on Twitter. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, I just really think that we are not going to have the political will to even get through the misinformation that's being shitted out right now. And then also to take action collectively. You know what I mean? Like, we've already been divided and conquered by the oligarchs. So, sorry, I just think that we're just going to be seeing ramped up, let me see where we're at here, about 20 minutes? Sure. We're going to see ramping up violence towards people by governments. Definitely more stochastic terrorism. These fucking nut job Republicans, these QAnon people, these fucking Christians. And yes, I'm talking about you, because if you're not out here trying to gather your motherfucking people, then you are a part of the problem. You are letting them get away with it. So if you're a Christian and you're sitting here going, wow, Willie, why are you being so mean? Because I'm not seeing you do enough to get your fucking people in line. Okay? So fuck Christians. Fuck QAnon people. Fuck Republicans. Y'all standing in the way. Y'all gonna be left in the past. Okay? Like, oh, I'm getting pissed. Anyways. So let's talk about kind of generational astrology here for a second. I think that the reason that I think these things is we've been busting through these generational cycles in like 10, 12, 15 years. Okay? So we're about to head into this much larger 20-year cycle of this Pluto in Aquarius. So just listen to this really quick. Pluto in Aquarius is from 23 until 44. Okay, it's 21 years. Pluto in Capricorn was from 08 to 23, 15 years. This is the Gen Alpha kids. So if anybody born from that 08 up until now, those are your Gen Alpha kids. So Gen Alpha is about is like the recent newborns up until about age 15, okay? Pluto in Sag, that's Gen Z, was about from 95 till about 08, okay? And there's some like retrogrades in there where it dips back into millennials for a second or whatever. But the entire Gen Z generation is 13 years, all right? So that means that Gen Z is about 15 or 16 up until about 25, mid 20s to mid to late 20s, right? You can do the math. I'm having a hard time doing math right now. So that means millennials, Pluto and Scorpio is only a 12-year cycle. Shit was changing really fast, especially during that millennials time. Technology shifted so rapidly. And then again, in the Pluto and Sagittarius, we got iPhones and shit just shifted rapidly. You know what I mean? So Pluto and Scorpio is about 83 until about 95, which means actually that the very oldest millennial is going to turn 40 this year. The very oldest millennials were born on November 5th, 1983, okay? So if your birthday's on November 5th, 1983, congrats. You are the oldest millennial. You're turning 40 this year. There are no millennials that are 40 yet. The oldest millennials are 39 right now, okay? Get into it. So anyways, then we had Pluto in Libra was a 13-year cycle. The Gen Xers from about 71 till about 84. And again, there's some retrogrades in there. Go look it up. Then Pluto in Virgo, baby boomers, is a little bit longer. They had 16 years. And that's about from 56 until about 72. Okay? So then, the opposite sign of where we're headed into now, Pluto in Aquarius, Pluto in Leo, was from about 37 until about 58. So again, that's a 21-year jump cycle. So then the previous sign, Pluto in Cancer, was even longer, 27 years. And that's when Pluto was discovered in 1930. So Pluto in Cancer, the GI generation, or the greatest generation, Pluto in Leo is the greatest generation. Pluto in Cancer is the silent generation, right? So Pluto in Cancer was 1912 till about 1939. So if I'm looking at these time periods, if you're born right up in, during World War I, and then up until World War II, culturally, not like a lot has happened, but it's not very much different to be born at that time. Does that make sense? Same thing with Pluto and Leo. You're the cusp of the US entering World War II and through the Korean War, through the, you know what I mean, until about 58. So essentially, like these longer generations, there's something about it where it's fundamentally no different if you were born in 37, 38, 39 versus if you were born in 56, 57, 58. You're still generationally kind of in the same group. Like we talked about Zennials or like a micro generation. That's not a thing. You know what I mean? You're either, like I'm a millennial. I'm an old ass millennial. But I have personally had a much more Gen X lifestyle. Like I probably relate more to Gen X because my friends have always been older. I've always been the youngest of my peer group. I've always been like, you know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that I'm a Gen X. That just means that's what I relate to more. I am definitely a millennial. I just have had more of a Gen X type of lifestyle. Anyways, so looking at this quality of time, it's going to be essentially no different for a child born right now than to be born in 2040, 2042, 2043. Does that make sense? So to me, what that means is that something is going to happen that interrupts the flow of progress or that changes the dynamic of the social cohesion or fabric, right? It's going to be no different to be born now than to be born in 20 years. So I think that we're going to experience already I think we're going to be jumping into this global conflict. I think that within the next couple of years, like I said in my Saturn and Pisces video, in the next couple of years, we're going to be in full blown out war. Like not a military conflict, not a skirmish or engagement, whatever. We're going to be in full blown war. Also, what's going to happen, I think that there could be proliferation of diseases. Like I said about global warming, there could be famine, mass die-offs, there could be drought. We're experiencing these extreme climate conditions. Like a third of Pakistan was underwater last year after these earthquakes and floods. Right? So there's going to be these major crises. I think we're going to be experiencing mass death even more than we've already normalized. And I think that because of that, it's going to change how we relate to each other en masse as a people. I'm talking about, the movie Independence Day, like when aliens attack the earth and it's like all the governments of the world have to come together because we're just getting picked off and everybody's dying. I think it's going to be some shit like that. And I really think that it's going to be before the end of next year that the sparks all really happen. Like we're seeing already March 23rd, we've entered this thing and all this stuff is playing out with these billionaires or whatever. If you look at those dates that Pluto is crossing over 0 degrees of Aquarius leading up until next year, which November of next year, that's going to be a major presidential election. That's going to be the last time that Pluto passes over the Great Conjunction. I think we're in for political violence, stochastic terrorism, insane ass motherfucking Republicans. And I just think that, like, I don't know, final topic, final thoughts on this. I just think that if you're not wearing a mask out in public right now, you're not somebody that can be trusted with like being a part of the change that you wish to see in the world, because you won't do something so simple like put a fucking cloth over your face because you think that, oh, I have an immune system, or I just heard that it's over. Ugh. You can't read. You clearly don't know how to read, because if you did, you would know the many different ways that COVID fucks your body up and all the incoming diseases and airborne bullshit that we're about to be dealing with. So to me, it's like if you're not wearing a mask out in public, you straight up will not be ready for the changes that are going to come. Because if you can't do something simple now, how can I expect you to, like when they start coming and hunting down gay people, how can I expect you to hide me in your attic or whatever when I know that you're not wearing a mask right the fuck now? You know what I mean? Like, I think we're headed for some major, major shit. And I don't want to be a crazy, tinfoil hat about it, but I was right about COVID. And there's been several things that I've been right about. Like, I said the countries are going to be claiming their independence. And didn't Haiti say no? Who was it? Was it Haiti? Dominican Republic? Said, no thanks, we're a sovereign nation now, goodbye. And we're having countries break away, and we're having, wars about borders. Like, there's several things about which I've been right. So I just think that if you're not doing the small things now, then you're not going to be ready to do the things that are going to be required later. Because I think that, like, we have this kind of like naive kind of like, oh, well, love is love, and love's going to win, and blah, blah, blah. Love ain't going to do shit, because we have people organizing against your life. We have people that think that Jesus is telling them to kill you, organizing on every level, infiltrating government at the city, state, national level. Until we deal with these people, until we literally rise up and smash these fucking fascists, nothing is going to change. So the more you sit here and talk about, oh, I just want a peaceful solution, I don't think it's going to come. I don't think it's going to be that way. I think that it's going to take a lot of people realizing that, like, love and light is not it's a great ideal, but it's not going to get shit done. And we might, and what else? It might sound like I'm trying to like pump up moral relativism, but you might be called to do something that you find to be unsavory. You might have to do it anyway, because you might not have a choice. It might be a life or death situation. Let me just put it like that, okay? So if you're not prepared for like a major paradigm shift, then just keep doing what you're doing,